finished halfway through. I turned it off so my phone doesn't have 60 minutes of recording. Do you have a hard stop at all?
Nope. 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 1. Right. Yeah, I won't keep you till 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
How long do you typically like to go?
Well, that's just it.
It's more a flow thing.
Exactly, it's more of a flow thing. So I tell people, I mean, I have some conversations where it feels good to wrap at 35. You know what I mean? Like I won't force something to go longer if we hit all the spots.
Natural.
But yeah, Steve and I, we did go for the full 60, but
okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
I'll kind of be watching. Do you have any other questions?
Nope. You can do a little mic. That looks good. Yeah. Test.
Now,
clipping.
will mine go? Okay,
yeah. You're clipping a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, bring yours down a little bit.
Which way?
You
mean
your input.
Oh wait, you mean touch this thing?
Yep. So, give me a second. Which one are you, yellow or green?
I am. What do you mean?
So on the very top, you have an XLR cord. 2 XLR cords going in the top.
Oh.
So those are your inputs. So
gotcha.
See how I'm going now? See the red?
Yep.
It's hitting the red. That means that I'm just talking a little bit too loud. So I may be watching that as I'm talking.
Okay.
And if it goes above this, that means I'm clipping.
Dude, you are very good at this. I should have had you come do my sound.
Check. No, I'm bad at sound. I had to be. Nick Novotny actually taught me how to do.
Well, and isn't Corey, and that's her husband, right?
Yep,
but she used to do this.
Yep. And so she's got kind of the setup.
So I think you're saying maybe I should just be back farther.
Be back a little bit farther, yeah.
Okay.
As long as it's not clipping, and as long as we're both kind of at the same volume. But
okay.
I'm guessing it is one singular input, which makes it a little bit difficult, but it is what it is.
Okay.
So we'll just watch our volume.
I'm just hoping it gets me this time. I think
right,
that's why I'm like last time.
So,
but I think it's because literally I was doing too much of this. And
Steve was too close, and you were too far away, and you couldn't isolate the sound channels to bring yours up and keep his at the same level. So we'll just both be at the same volume.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
You ready?
I think so.
You know way more about this than I do.
It's only by accident. Forced.
Wait, Will Forsman?
Will Forsman. Yep.
Forsman.
Yep.
All right, and we're back on the Awaken with Maria podcast, and I'm super excited because I am here with Will Forsman, and I'm trying not to look at him because the Awaken with Maria podcast for this series here, we are recording in person, and I'm getting to know the microphone so that you can hear me, and if I look at Will, it will miss my voice, but Will, welcome to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Okay, so for those that are listening, can you share a little bit about who you are and what do you do? And I actually feel like you wear a lot of hats, but give it to me.
Yeah, so I guess what most folks would know me for is as co-owner of Cafe Steam and our sister company, Colorway Coffee Roasters. So that exists as now 4 locations that are coffee shops in Rochester, Minnesota, and the other component to it, which is the sister company, Colorway Coffee Roasters, roasts and distributes coffee for southeastern Minnesota and then also some southwest Wisconsin clients as well.
Okay, Will, how long have you been with Cafe Steam? And then I feel like the Colorway distributor, that was like an add-on that came a little bit after.
Yep.
Tell me more about that.
That's quite recent. So I have been with Cafe Steam since our open in 2015, and I was kind of thinking it's like we're coming up on our 12th year, which is crazy to think about considering I was, when I started in coffee, I was 19 years old, and so kind of see Rochester grow around it and see the changes that have happened is pretty incredible. But I've been in coffee for I think close to 14 years now. That would mean so I'm almost 33.
Okay. So I say like since your teens.
Yes.
You've been in coffee.
In coffee.
And then when did you add in the Colorway distributor?
That was in 2021, really at the precipice of the transition. So that conversation kind of started, and the sale of the company to us started at the end of 2020, but finalized at probably the first week of 2021.
Okay, so Will, now you've told us what most people know you for.
Yeah.
Your main, shall we say, your main day job.
Yep.
But I also know that I've seen you at events with a camera.
Yep. So I moonlight as a photographer.
I also heard here, as we were setting up for the podcast recording, you were giving me some tips on this soundboard here, because you also have to do some of that. So share a little bit more about some of the other like hats and things that you dabble in.
Yeah, so I think my journey started right out of college. I was one of those individuals where I went off to school after high school thinking, high school is the next transition for me, or excuse me, college is the next transition for me. But when getting there, I realized that, nothing was really speaking to me, and I was wasting my parents' money and my own time.
At the time, did you have something in mind that you were kind of like pursuing, or were you kind of like, I'm gonna just do some generals and hope to figure it out?
That's exactly it. Yeah, went for generals, and maybe something would speak to me, but there was, I maybe could have, looking back, made different choices in the college that I attended, and
where were you at?
I was at North Dakota State University.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And
kind of probably in like the no man's land. I mean, it was pretty.
It's the arts and cultural capital of the Midwest, don't you know? Fargo, for a 19-year-old, you're kind of limited in your options in what career path would be presented. If for those who are, in pharmaceuticals, a great area for it. If you're engineering, great. If you're majoring in wheat, I met a lot of people who were doing that there.
You were going to find your life path in wheat?
Yeah. It is a fantastic school. I think I went there with less in mind than the actual education. So that is what contributed maybe to my downfall. But after college, came home and started in a band. Kind of a traveling band. We would go throughout Minnesota playing music, which is also kind of what leans into my soundboard experience.
So interesting. Okay, so you also had your band days, which if you see Will, which we'll have his photo on this podcast here, that's not that big of an extrapolation. You're like, oh yeah, Will's in a band. What did you play?
I played the drums, and after a while realized that it was not maybe the most financially sustainable, and kind of came to the conclusion that, well, it's time to get a job. So one of my band members, our guitarist, had a solo acoustic gig at a coffee shop that had existed in downtown Rochester since 2012, and I thought, boy, this place is really cool. So I asked, who was running the shop if they were hiring, and they said yes, but only for a dishwasher. And I was like, well, I'm dirt broke. I mean, I had $12 in my pocket. I showed up to the interview in a pair of swim trunks and the button-down shirt I'd worn at a funeral once, and I thought that was what you were supposed to wear, or that was as professional as I could look. And started there working just a handful of hours every week, but really enjoyed the community that came with it. I really liked kind of the I'm not maybe the most social person, but there is a social barrier associated with the bar or the coffee bar where there is a bit of distance between you and another individual. So you can have these really quick exchanges that are not drawn out and they're not requiring a great deal of social skill.
As I'm requiring Will to sit a foot away and have a very long, in-depth conversation. So to be honest, Will, I will say you do know how to play the part. And I know you as the owner of Cafe Steam, but I wouldn't really be able to tell that you didn't love social interaction, and maybe that's also come out of you since being in the coffee industry and coffee shops all the time.
A lot of practice, and that's what's cool about the coffee shop, is that you may be interacting with several hundred people a day, so you can try out different things, and some of them successful, some of them not, but it really gets, it took the edge off of my, I think, shyness that comes with adolescence today.
Yeah, so it sounds like what originally led you into the coffee industry wasn't the coffee. Like you didn't leave North Dakota and you're like, oh my God, I just always I love coffee. I want to do something with coffee. It was a means to an end at first.
Correct.
It was, and again, even if it was just a dishwashing job, you were like, okay, cool. This is something. At what point, and I'm also guessing this coffee shop is not there anymore. This
Correct.
Wasn't Cafe Steam.
This is who we took over.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So my question is, at what point in that journey of just taking it as a dishwashing job and just a way to interact with people, did you have a moment or moments where you were like, this might be my thing, this might be part of my purpose, and not so much because it's coffee, but because this allows, you know what I mean? Tell me about that.
So I think at that juncture, no. And the reason being is I just didn't see, there wasn't a lot of personal motivation for me to succeed in that industry. So at the end of 2014, there was a transition in that business that saw Cafe Steam taking over. So that's where I met my business partners, Kaya Garcia and Tracy Downs, who and we transitioned that then into Cafe Steam. I had not yet taken on an ownership role.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Did they approach you that shortly,
kind of? Yep. So it was like, hey, we need to help sustain this space. Would you be interested in coming on? And I was like, yeah. and the role was in more of a managerial side. But I think with that management side, it offered me a lot of that creative control, which I think in the previous environment, even if I had taken on management, it would not have allowed for. So I think my advice to anybody in that same scenario is make sure that you are trusting in someone else the ability to have some creative control, so long as you're not losing grip on the company entirely. So we worked very closely together, but I think they trusted a lot in my creativity, and that motivated me each day to show up and do a better job. And then from there, I just became more personally invested. You put in not only your time but sweat equity, in the sense that I'm thinking about things and doing creative things outside of it with photography and developing my skills there. There came an opportunity for me to purchase into the business, and from that point on, we've continued to grow. And as I mentioned, in 2021, we purchased a different company that was formerly under the name Narrow Road Coffee Roasters, and transitioned that into Colorway, which exists today, providing, we roast anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 pounds a month, and are providing for quite a few people.
That's amazing. Something I want to point out though too is, you know how, like, I think when some people think like, oh, I'm going to get into maybe a managerial role of a coffee shop, or ultimately you ended up, becoming a co-owner. And I think for some people they think like, oh, that must mean Will enjoys crunching numbers or pushing paper, or, because I think, like some people think manager and they think like, yeah, they must be the person like behind the scenes. It sounds like the people who you ultimately went into ownership knew that your specialty, your creative energy is your creativity. Like that's what you bring to. And I feel like that's even what people in the community know you as well, is if you go to any Cafe Steam, it feels very intentional. It feels like the design, the colors, I will, again, plugging their new location, which is right across from St. Mary's Hospital. But you go in there and I believe there's, you can take Polaroids, you can put pictures up. Like a lot of these intentional touches feel very like personal. You've been a part of it.
Correct. Oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I feel like that's where, I don't know, I think it's just, that's where like we realize that we can actually channel our passion and our purpose and we can make it into our own. And it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, no, Will's going to become like the suit wearing, crunching the number. Like that was never going to be your style of managing and ownership.
Yeah, I think my skill set was on the creative side, but also in, I think, seeing potential in others. And so doing what was done for me in other people, because in the sense that, yes, you see my fingerprint kind of over a lot of different things, the actual like kind of heart and soul of it comes from the employees who are interacting with your guests on a daily basis. Because guess what? With 4 locations, you cannot be everywhere all at once. So who is it that is now the face of your company in a customer's facing side? I've taken a step back from being on bar every day simply because my responsibilities are overwhelming that component, and it was my favorite part of coffee. And so now I kind of, you promote yourself to a level of incompetence, in the sense that you mentioned the paper pushing and the emailing and everything. That's the part I'm the worst at, but it's also the part
as you
that
said, you had like 100 emails, or
a million
I
woke up to 100
messages.
emails yesterday that somehow came in overnight, and it's just overwhelming to the point where I realize that's not my skill set, but that somebody has to do it, and I'm not willing to pay someone else to do it, nor am I. And I think that's one of the skill sets that I'm working on, is managing individuals who have skills that I don't. So the coffee part, I've got that pretty well down. I've got, I can do build outs, I can do all that what's necessary for a cafe in a physical sense. There's an ambiguity to the running of the business that is, you're always struggling with, that you're always feeling a lack of confidence in, or there is some mystery to it.
Yeah, well, and a couple things. I think as an entrepreneur, as an owner, as a founder, it's that letting go of control. It's that Will can no longer be, I want to call it bartending. It's not bartending, coffee tending, right? Will can't be behind the counter of every one of your coffee shops anymore. So one, you mentioned one of your skill sets is just finding the people of who are going to be the touch points. Because, for people who are regular coffee people, and I feel like Cafe Steam, you probably have your regulars. And it's like being intentional of who's delivering the coffee, who's going to be the face of this location. So it sounds like you enjoy kind of finding those people and have a knack for that. as well as ultimately, like, was that hard for you learning how to begin to like let go of control or let go of some of the pieces that you originally got to be more a part of?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think as you kind of have it shakes your confidence a little bit in that you're stepping away from your business, this thing that you have cared for, blood, sweat, and tears for every single day of your life, or up to that point. And there were, for many, many years, I spent all day in the cafe. I'd get there at 9 a.m., wouldn't leave until 11 o'clock at night. I'd be sitting up at my desk doing, various things that are necessary. And that is the part that's hard to transition away from, but it's also difficult for those folks that are coming in, new employees or new management members. They don't have that perspective of me. And so you're kind of wrestling with that of like making sure that people know that you are still heavily involved and still, invested in that same way.
Even if they don't see you day to day, or
they did not see that
Yeah.
getting up to that point.
Yeah.
And so that is maybe something that I personally struggled with in a confidence sense of like making sure that my work is still valued by my whether it's my counterparts that have worked for Cafe's team, and also making sure that I am doing the best for my business that I possibly can. So it would be very easy for somebody to kind of hide within their own company once you can get to a certain size, and suddenly you're disappearing within it, and people assume that you're off doing work, but they're not quite sure what it is, and you really wouldn't be able to describe what they do.
Yep.
So making sure that you're present every single day. So going through each of the locations every day, if not every day, as often as possible, and talking to people. What do you need? What's going on today? And so that you don't have to have these mounting one-on-one meetings that I see a lot of people do, like, oh, we should have a one-on-one, and it's just this tsunami of here's everything that's wrong, here's everything that's gotten broken, and yada yada yada. Making sure to have these touch points throughout the day and be in perpetual communication with people to know that what's going on.
Yeah, and I think you said it right there. Originally when you start something, it's kind of just you. It's usually you wearing all the hats, perhaps, right?
Yep.
It was probably you doing the social media marketing posts, you serving up the coffee,
Yep.
you doing the inventory, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're in that, you don't really have to communicate because it's just yourself.
You're managing it. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely a difficult part, especially you guys have really expanded, but that communication, I think at times it can feel like, oh, am I a broken record here? Am I over communicating?
Mm-hmm.
But truly, as you mentioned, just your presence, just being out, just being seen, just being available should they need just a quick something, makes a huge difference, I feel like, especially when you're starting to manage a team.
Yeah, and so much of it is not going in with an accomplished goal. So I'm not going in saying, hey, this table needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. That's not productive. And people have an increased level of stress in their work environment if they feel like they're being watched.
Yeah.
And I also recognize it's actually not fun to work with your boss all of the time, okay? I can see that, and so if I'm not there, I can't take it as this like, oh, I'm this do-nothing owner that is just sitting and collecting paychecks. And there would first have to be paychecks to make it justifiable. But the difference is sometimes you're just going in to talk to people. Sometimes you're going to say, how was your day? What'd you do over the weekend? Make small talk and make sure that people know that they are, able to talk to you should those things come up. But you also want to encourage people to do that as they come up, not have this sudden increase in issues that they're just suddenly throwing onto your plate out of nowhere.
Well, and I will say, I think that's probably in your role now as co-owner, going in, checking on people, checking on team, which I think sometimes can it can sometimes be the one who you're putting out the fires or, should issues are concerned, right? That's
you're where the buck stops.
Part of the job. Yeah. Now, with that said though, again, you also know, like in your role, you wear a lot of hats, you do a lot of things, and again, you're still doing some other side gigs. Like I mentioned, I was at an Experience Rochester event, and Will was there with his camera. Can I ask what part of you drives you to do some of those things? I would imagine, you seem like someone who is multi-passionate, who likes to, it's like you don't want to really be maybe
in a box,
pigeonholed to one thing. Is that kind of the driver of like if an opportunity presents itself in front of you and you're like, That sounds fun.
Mhm.
That seems like the process. Tell me more about
Yeah, and it could be ADHD to some degree, and I think for a lot of
Yeah.
folks that are like that, that's what leads them to be more dynamic in their professional life. A lot of the skill sets that I've developed as a result of the cafe, in particular social media, graphic design, photography, these are things that I've then been able to grow outside of just what is the cafe. So the photography component especially is we needed better photos for our social media, and so I got a camera. I was having a lot of fun and I felt very inspired by what I was creating. I was fortunate that people enjoyed the images that I was taking, and they were like, hey, if you ever have time, would you be willing to do some headshots for me? And I said, sure. Those headshots lead to other business, and that then continues to kind of snowball into like, oh, now it's its own thing. And it didn't need to necessarily be sustained solely on the photography. If I had just gone into photography, I would have never been able to make it. But you pick up a gig a month, easy. Then it becomes 2 gigs, then it becomes 3 gigs. It did get to the point where it was starting to eclipse some of my responsibilities, and I needed to take a step back.
Yeah.
And that was really important for me to recognize and have like, ooh, I actually do have a ceiling on how much time I have within the day, and being respectful of my own energy boundary and like what my limitations are there.
Yeah, I feel like that's huge if you're multi-passionate, and it's like easy to say, like, if something lights you up, right? You're like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, it snowballs, and then someone else wants to book you for, oh, I could do that too. But then before you know it, you're like, oh, geez, like I don't actually have any time for myself this week, or some of the other things, other task responsibilities are falling off. So it's really good to like just be aware of your time, your energy, your boundaries. But also, I mean, I think the whole purpose of today's episode too is really living in your purpose on purpose, even if on paper it looks like, well, Will's like doing 100 things. Well, at the end of the day, the only person that can judge that is you, right? It's like, what lights you up? When are you depleted? When are you feeling energy renewed? And like being really mindful of that.
Yeah, and having been in the position where there is no opportunity, having that feeling of if you ever say no to something, it will never come back to you, eats away at you. And you actually do need to start to set up guardrails, and like not every gig is going to be your gig. You can, you can make opportunity for someone else through referral, but knowing when to say no to certain things is important. And that was part of my journey that I think I look back on the most impactful, because it was hard to do.
It is really hard. It can be really hard to say no.
Yeah.
Well, so in your journey, living in your purpose on purpose, when has there been a time where fear or doubt crept in, imposter syndrome, and like how did you deal with that? I feel like the journey of an entrepreneur is like, that's like every day, that's like Tuesday.
Yeah.
But like if you can share though a time where it really maybe put you in a position where it was going to paralyze you, or you know what I mean, from that standpoint of like, what do I do, or how did you move through it?
I think for like fear or stress, COVID was definitely the worst. I mean, that's like an easy chip in shot. Like, and it wasn't even COVID itself. It was the fall off after COVID. So for a portion of time, there was federal funding to be able to support businesses. We kind of saw a light at the end of the tunnel, and we kept seeing this possibility that things would wrap up and like we would be able to open.
Okay, first of all, I want you to go a little bit farther back from that. Was there a moment as a business owner of a brick and mortar that requires physical people to come in and sit near each other? Kind of when did you have that initial like kind of oh shit moment of, I remember the day that I was working in an in-person clinic. I remember the day when our boss had to make the decision. It was March 17th.
Oh yeah.
The clinic is closing.
Ours was March 12th.
It's closing, and I remember like texting my husband, and for the first time within that week, I think we were rotating and going on unemployment, and something I never thought I would do. So tell me though, like, because you're kind of going into like the, but like, for when did like fear kick in? Was it an announcement? Was it a decision you ended up having to make because of, you know what I mean, things that were going on?
There was fortunately a sense of solidarity with other business owners in that time when the announcements were happening, and you see bills keep coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you can't get water from a rock. Like, how do people expect for us to pay rent, pay bills, if we are being physically shut down by the government.
Right, like
Okay.
you literally are being told you can't.
And so I wasn't stressed out yet. Yeah, it was stressful, but I was not like totally stressed out. My biggest stressor was January of 2022, which we were still in COVID, had some COVID restrictions involved, but all of that federal funding had dried out. Everybody was kind of living with this reality of COVID maybe with us for a very long time, and sales were low. So you're coming through that seasonal trend of winter is tough on every business. I remember we were watching money leave the bank account faster than it was coming in, and I kind of had a mental note of like, okay, we lost this much money last month, we can do that one more month and we're done. And that is when that sinking feeling hits your gut and you go, oh, we're kind of getting to I'm looking at the bottom here.
Yeah.
And so.
And like everything that we've worked for because of once in a lifetime.
Yeah, well, it's all, yeah.
event that happens and you're like, could this really save us?
Yep, because we were super on board with all of it. And I mean, because we were motivated to reduce the spread and everything as many of the coffee shops were doing.
Yes.
But we still have an obligation to keep the lights on, and the ability for us to invoke COVID as a kind of this like, help us out was dwindling. So using that as an excuse, not I'm gonna say excuse, but using that as a justification for certain things was running dry. And we were still feeling the economic impact of it with reduced foot traffic because people were exercising caution.
Yeah.
There was still, majority of people were work from home. There wasn't a lot of people downtown.
Yeah, I feel like it really changed people's patterns. Like it wasn't just, right, it wasn't just like a 6-month window or even a 12-month window of restrictions. Oh, restrictions are lifted, everybody goes back to normal.
Yeah.
It was like adjusting to a new normal.
Was up and down,
patterns.
up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And that ambiguity did not allow for us to do a lot of financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
So not in the sense that we were irresponsible, but I think with that funding that we were given and the restrictions utilized for it, we could have made that work in a different way that would have gotten us through a lot longer. I think you had to spend all of that PPP within 9 months. And realistically, we could have seen that, we could have rationed that a bit more rather than dumping it into payroll that was unnecessary, and that was one of the limitations of it. But it was sobering, and you start feeling like you're bailing water out as the water's you're still taking on water.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make any rash decisions, but you start to take a harder look at every single component. And it's not like, you're not trying to make cuts like, oh, we need to use cheaper toilet paper. It's like you're trying to look at systemic issues that might benefit you in the long term.
Yes.
But it still takes years to right the ship. And that's what people don't realize is that it's not like checkers. It's not like checkers. It's like chess. Chess, you've lost the game 10 moves ago, and you didn't realize it until now.
Yeah.
Business is very much like that, and you're perpetually moving these pieces, and you have to think of the impact that will have down the road rather than on the next day.
Yeah. So I mean, like, honestly, I'm guessing at some point that was fear, that was imposter, and that was stress of the times, January 2022. And at the end of the day, because then I talk about like what pulled you through, and oftentimes it usually ends up being something related to your purpose, something related to your, a commitment to like, I'm going to do what I can that's within my power to keep this ship upright. So what pulled you through it?
Something that I developed over the time working for the coffee shop, and that was a level of discipline, something that I didn't have in my adolescence that I had to learn. And I think if this had occurred a few years prior, I would not care in that same degree. And that discipline comes from investment, and there is that kind of sunk cost fallacy of like, I just have to keep digging, and then I'll finally reach the treasure at the end of the whatever. So it is just personal discipline and a work ethic that I did not possess prior to the coffee shop. So I was thankful to be able to develop that somewhat through it, and just the passion for the industry.
That's what I think though, like you said though, I think some people are like, oh, I'm not disciplined to this, or I'm not disciplined to that. I actually think oftentimes when we can dig up some discipline and commitment when it's something that we're heavily invested in, passionate about. Like, I would presume it was also even just like the relationship and the connection to the people and the team of like, I am committed to this. And I think that's where sometimes people are like, oh, I think I must not just be disciplined. But I also oftentimes think people are just in like they're not actually doing the work that they love. They're not, it's like, well, of course, how do you be disciplined to something that you have no connection to? So it sounds like you have that connection to Cafe Steve because you'd been, in a leadership position for a little bit then.
I purchased into it in 2017. So I'd owned the business then for 5 years. So there was that sense of responsibility to it. But even years prior, it was still, I had not yet cultivated that sense of responsibility to it. And you're growing something not just for yourself, but you're growing it for other people. You have employees who have maybe, they have kids, they have rent, they have bills to pay. There is an exigent circumstance of things that are required to be fulfilled every day that grow beyond you. And so it's not just about you, it's about everybody that you've learned to support over that time.
Yeah, and I would even say, Cafe Steam has reached like legacy level in Rochester.
I hope so.
But truly,
well,
I'm
50 years
like,
down the line, I don't think anybody's going to remember it.
But
that's fine.
I think they will.
But
I think like even to that point though, Will, the community would have lost something great had it gone. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even just about the staff and everything like that. I just think like you have become a downtown staple. And I know you even said at one point, I said, why don't you come closer to where I live? I said, come on out to Northwest Rochester, like it could be like a drive-through. And I actually loved your answer was that wouldn't be what we've created. Like we're known for the come in, sit down, meet a friend for coffee, plug in your headphones, listen to music. So again, I really love that you guys are a testament to not only commitment and discipline to staying on brand, staying, on purpose. Yeah, I really like that.
We use a motto and it's maybe a little bit antiquated now, when we're doing orientation for new employees, which is good coffee, good vibes. Okay, it's a little millennial, but I'm accepting that. The energy that we create in the cafes through community, through that exchange of ideas, is predicated on the quality of coffee and the service that we're providing with it. So the community spaces are what we create. It's done through the love of good coffee and through our kind of neuroses to the quality that we are hoping to put out on now what seems to be a national level because of the foot traffic that Rochester sees. We have 1 million visitors a year, and so we're perpetually seeing a new group of people, and we want them to take an experience away from this place that shows Rochester is not just Mayo Clinic. It's not just, a center for health. It is also people who live there. It's kind of like how when you go to Las Vegas, you're like, there are people who live in Las Vegas. And you're like, what do you mean you live in Las Vegas?
Well, and I think so that's almost like the paradox, I think, though, of also being where Mayo Clinic is. Is, obviously we have, I don't even know the numbers, hundreds, thousands of people, millions of people who come here just for their medical care.
It's like 1 million a year.
From all over the world. But also, and like you said, and also like Cafe Esteem is known for being a place for locals where anybody can hang out. But also I feel like you mentioned, but you're also serving people from all over the world. So even someone who's just here passing for a week, for a month, and they end up downtown. You're going to get an experience here. And I feel like for the small business owners, that's like a whole other conversation. I know that being here and right down in the hub of Mayo Clinic, has its pros and cons.
Yep.
But on the one hand, like, how cool is it that you can make an experience for someone who's literally could maybe be here from India and just happens upon your coffee and an experience that they won't forget, that's,
Well, whenever you're traveling, you want to go where the locals go. So if we can have these sort of quasi-local spaces that operate as places for, the citizens of Rochester as well as the travelers or the transient individual, that gives them an elevated experience. There are the, kind of hotel bar areas that you're not going to be interacting with somebody who's from Rochester there. So we want to have those conversations. I'm wearing a t-shirt from the Shoe Beverage Bar, and this is another kind of community gathering space that I've become really attracted to, because you do have visitors and you got people, you walk in, first 5 minutes you're striking up a conversation with somebody you've never met, and the flow is there, and it's the beers help, but it also is a smaller, more intimate gathering space that isn't super expensive, and it's always fun. So
yeah, and having intention with those spaces.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. So, by my terms, you're young. Like in your 30s.
I'm getting older every day.
Are you someone? I imagine with your creativity. Do you have a pretty good imagination?
Sometimes too good, but it usually leads to stressful things.
Well, so what I was going to ask is, what do you see as your next iteration of
that? I don't think about. Can't think about that. No.
That I was just going to say, like, is there any stone unturned? And again, you're only 33.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just opened up a 4th location for Cafe Steam. But is there anything else that you feel like you want to be doing? You're already, dabbbling in, can't think of it for a second, photography.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing some, what do you call them?
Sound engineering.
Sound
we
engineering.
do open mic, and so I
there we go.
Yeah,
open mic at Cap. Yeah. Like, is there anything else that you've seen, even just for this year? We don't have to go out like 20 years, but like just anything else that you want to do more of, or feel called to do, or maybe on the vice versa. Is there something where you feel like you've really etched this path, this thing that you're like, I love this, and if this is what I get to do for the rest of my life, I'm good.
I think I can spend a lot of time dreaming about where I would rather be, but that can take away from that which you're currently experiencing. The grass will always be greener on the other side, and you can dream about it. But if what you have is good,
mm-hmm.
and it continues to be good, and you can maintain it as such, you should be very thankful for that, because there's so many people in this world who do not have something good, and you are very fortunate to be in that position. And then there are those who have something good and risk that good for something to continue benefiting themselves, and that can be seen, and to some obligation, you really are only responsible for protecting yourself. So you do need to follow your passions and do what you feel is best for you. Okay. But every day I wake up and I think, I'm so happy that I do what I do, even on the most stressful days.
Yeah.
Because I see what other people are doing. If you work in a cubicle, or you work and not to denigrate what anybody does for 40 hours a week and so forth, but I do not have that ability to do that, or the passion, and the fact that those people can get up every day and do that, they're stronger than I am, because there are work environments that I dread, and so I'm very thankful to be where I am. But no, I kind of take every day one day at a time. Not trying to be a big vision person, grow steadily, and it's 1 inch at a time, but over a lifetime that it grows to quite a bit. But I also recognize that no coffee shop lasts forever, and if I think that way, or if I think that it will last forever, that's ego that is now taking over and will obscure you from the reality of the situation.
So I love how day by day, just taking it day by day, but also it feels like you have found an appreciation and a gratitude for the work that you get to do.
Sure.
And that it affords you, like you said, I think there's just some of us who, like, and myself included, I just couldn't have done a 9 to 5. I couldn't have gone into the same job in the same day. When I worked at Mayo, I knew everything. Like, that would have bored the living daylights out of
mm-hmm.
me. And I have a lot of counterparts who are still doing, rehab there, and that they love that. So but again, you found something that, are there stressful days? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are some days longer than others? Yes.
Most
But
days.
it also affords you this creativity, this freedom, this flexibility to pick up a side gig if you
mm-hmm.
want, like to do a photography thing if you want,
mm-hmm.
to come and hang out for a podcast interview for
right.
a part of your day. And it sounds like that's really where a lot of the gratitude and appreciation comes from.
Yeah. The trade-off being, with the 9 to 5, you go home. You don't have to take your work home with you, and to a great degree. With business ownership, it is 24 hours a day, in the sense that part of your body is always with the coffee shops or with your business. And
100%.
You'll get a call at 10 o'clock at night. You'll get a call at the next morning at 6 a.m. and it's for two radically different things, but both of which require 100% of you and you don't get to step away from that. You don't have a choice,
Yeah.
and it's not like I'm going to go, well, I'm going to quit this job and go do something else. The buck stops here, and you can pay some. Well, I don't think you could pay somebody to do what I do, and in the sense that I wouldn't want somebody to do that for any amount of money, and
No.
in the burden that comes with it, and but it's self-imposed. Like you create that burden for yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the level of responsibility that you're willing to accept. And I think what a lot of people don't want to acknowledge is oftentimes it's the level of responsibility that we're willing to accept is kind of like going to be how far you can grow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and then that's just how it is. Like, as you keep growing, as you expanding, whatever it is that you're doing, oftentimes it also just means taking that level of responsibility, as well as, I was just interviewing someone else this morning too. It's like, you also have to be pretty self-aware. I feel like as a founder entrepreneur, you have to know a heck of a lot about yourself. What are your talents? What are your skill sets? And also, like, when do you need to outsource to someone who's better at something else than me? Or when do you need to actually say yes to something that you're like, oh no, that's only mine? So it's really that level of self-awareness that helps you, I feel like, keep things going as well.
Yeah. And that's part of the challenge, is that motivation every single day to do to know that the road in front of you is probably just as long as the road you've been on, and that is the part that I try not to think about. So when you ask, well, what's the vision, and I try not to think about how much of the road is in front of me. So you just take it day by day.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I also want to just point out too, I think it's different for each of us that are in this whatever entrepreneurial business owner role. Because I would say I can sometimes be the opposite. I love to envision out. I love to think like, ooh, 10 years, 20 years, like, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be on more stages. I want to, whatever. And I love doing that because that's part of what drives me to come like right back here to this moment. It's almost like what, so we say forced, not forced. That's why I'm doing this in-person podcast day, because I know I want to be doing more of this. And I had to almost like see it, if that makes sense. I just see it in the future of like, it starts in this little collider cubicle with 2 microphones, but you know where you're going. So, that's kind of how I use it. Whereas I also like how you're saying, especially I think in your industry of just being in a brick and mortar coffee industry of like, I also just need to see the road right in front of me right now and do the next best thing to kind of help you stay on track of this.
And it can be pretty dismal. I mean, just only looking at the next day, and you try to project out as far as you can.
Right.
But you can get kind of into the weeds that way. And ideation is important. Like seeing where you're going is important, but not focusing too much on a finish line, and knowing that you're kind of chasing a moving target.
Yes.
And you're willing to change with the business as it grows.
Yeah. Well, my final question for you, this has been a really fun conversation, but I want to end with just like, so what do you do for fun? Because as you mentioned, like as a business owner, it is hard to turn off.
Yeah.
You're truly like, there's always something that I could be doing or marketing or putting out there, whatever. So what are some things though that help you maybe step out of Will CEO owner hat sometimes? Like what are some things that you do for fun, for joy? And then tell us where's the best place to connect with you. Where are some of the cafe steams as we wrap this up?
Sure. I love to be outdoors. I fish quite a bit. I have a boat that I take out onto various lakes, and I love to. That's not only, it's a physical disconnect because
no cell service?
Well,
or like when you're physically
sometimes, when you're fly fishing, you definitely don't have cell service, and so you are physically disconnected, and you kind of almost create barriers for yourself to have to step away. It's kind of like I'd have to send myself to the other side of the moon to say like, sorry guys, I can't do that because I'm on the other side of the moon. So creating limitations, and fishing is one really good one. I have done it since I was a kid, but I never really viewed it as a hobby. I thought it was just something that everybody did, and come to find out, no, it's actually it is more challenging and not as intuitive as folks would like, or as I would think it is.
I definitely can't fish.
Yeah. So I've been taking people, some of our baristas out and bringing them out and showing them like, okay, this is how easy it is and how fun it is.
Yeah.
And those are great experiences. Other than that, I'm not really a crafty person, but photography I still do on occasion as a hobby and a passion, but that very slowly became an extension of work, and as that portion of the business grew, and so I would say right now the primary hobby is, or what I do to relax, is fishing, and
I love that.
I love it. Yeah.
I love
think
that,
about it all the
truly.
time.
I love it because, like, I absolutely don't love it. Like, I've gone out and I've been very stressed because I'm like, one, how do I get this string to get in the water correctly? And then I also don't have the patience for it. So then I sit there and I'm like, so I'm more of like I'll bring my headphones, I'll listen to something or a book or something like that. But I appreciate that you have enjoyed that as an outlet.
Yeah. And your second question, how do people get in touch with me?
Where do we find you, or where do we just find your work?
I was gonna say,
tell us about Cafe Steam.
Don't get in touch with me. Stop emailing me. Please leave me alone. It's enough. But Cafe Steam exists with 4 locations. Interface with you can interface with me through our company and the more joyful faces that you may encounter as baristas. We have a brand new location across from St. Mary's on 2nd Street. We're being impacted pretty heavily by the construction, so any bit of foot traffic that location can see, we're definitely appreciative of. We have 3 other locations in the Skyway, the Student Living Center on the 2nd level of what was formerly the Hilton Doubletree. A location inside of the 2 Discovery Square, which is that Discovery Square complex, and then our primary, or I would say the
one they're known for,
flagship shop on Broadway, which has no trouble with business. So that one will be very consistent forever because it has that quality that's unique. It's an older building. It has a historic value to it. So otherwise, shameless plug of Colorway Coffee Roasters. We're Rochester's only producer of fresh roasted coffee solely as a coffee shop. Novios does a great job as well.
Yes.
But we have free local delivery directly to your house. You can find us at colorwaycoffeeroasters.com.
Amazing. Will, thank you so much. And also just to plug their new location. I had coffee there with a friend and it is really, it's beautiful. There's a lot of light that comes in. Take a Polaroid of yourself. Go check it out. All right. Will, thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Nice. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So how many millions of listeners do you have?
Millions. So I'm on, I think these are 104, 105.
Still quite a few.
Recorded 100 some episodes. I think
smokes.
the podcast is near, I'd have to look, because I can see Spotify numbers and then Apple podcast numbers.
Sure.
So it's somewhere between 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
Wow.
Downloads, not listen. I mean,
still though, that's,
you
wonder how many those could be being listened to by numerous people if somebody's playing them for somebody else.
Yes. Well, and what's really fun is 2 seasons ago. I mean, I think technically I'm in the 5th season of it. A couple seasons ago, I had interviewed some other local people. Again, at the time it was all on Zoom, but some of those business owners say I still have people find my episode now.
I get
years later.
I had so my girlfriend, when I first started seeing her parents had researched me or